much blood to more nutrition than could get through with that cut. So it was actually causing a septic condition. And he said, get that off there. And I think he put yarrow on, but I can't remember. But at any rate, he stopped that and then and it pinked up nicely. I remember him saying it pinked up the next day. So, yeah. And here says, yeah, is definitely for a deep wound where there's a lot of bleeding, it would be yarrow. For a dirty wound. Well, that's all, Caitlin. Yeah, it's to pull crop out, plantain would be better. Calendula helps with the drainage of the lymphatics. But we'll get out to all that. Yeah, punctures. Yeah, Pierce adds, use ledum, and that heals from the bottom up. That's more of a puncture wound. Different. So there's a lot of differentiation in the wound remedies themselves. Yeah. Let's go back to that picture again and just see if we didn't miss anything else.
Well, I'm sorry, I was going to mention that there are two layers of the dermis. One layer of the dermis called the papillary layer is where the blood vessels, all the lymphatic drainage takes place, and the nerves are, etc. And then there's the reticular layer, and that's the connective tissue. That's where collagen is needed the most. And that collagen layer, reticular layer, attaches to the hypodermis, which is the subcutaneous fat. So that fat layer is below the collagen layer.
Hmm. This gives some the beauty class. You got to have that nice fat there. Plus, you got to have good, strong connective tissue in there. And then you want your epidermis to be self-cleaning, I guess you'd say, and exfoliating naturally. And the light shines through and the light shines in. Actually, you put your hand up at a light bulb, light shines into your body too.
Yeah,
So,
Tara and I have a little difference of opinion. Tara, you chime in here on exfoliating. Y'all will have to come to that class and hear
well,
our
I was just
difference.
saying natural exfoliation. Yeah.
One of the things I think is important to think about skin healing also is that the, let me see how to say it, the epidermis works its way up through the dermis over time, right? The cells work their way up to becoming the epidermis from the dermis. And I think some of the latest studies on the skin have found that the lymph system in the skin is way, way more important than they ever thought it was.
Hmm.
Way more important. And so, how do you move the lymph in the skin?
Mhm.
So this is becoming important in the study of things like cellulitis,
Mm.
of infections of the skin, even rashes related to allergic reactions, right? So exercise, I'm back to exercise. I'm a big proponent of exercise. Moving the lymph has got to be the whole body movement of lymph. And we don't think about moving the lymph in our skin. We think about moving our deep lymph. But the latest studies are saying reduce your chances of skin cancer, move the lymph. So I wanted to throw that out there, which is the dermis layer. We have to move the lymph through the dermis layer and then back out.
Mm. Mm. Great. Also, we think of, drying out of the skin. We want plenty of fluids in there, and as well as the fluids being carried away through the lymph. So we want a very dynamic state there. I'm thinking here of red clover um,
Yeah.
for dry skin and calendula for lymphatic stagnation. And it can get so stagnant the skin can be a little bit yellow with calendula. So, but well, this is all preview for future.
Hmm.
Uh, let's see. So we had a question there. Let's see. Well, are we through? We're through anatomy. Are we through function too? You wanted to speak on function?
Yeah, I wanted to speak on function because we've just kind of talked about the skin is the barrier to the world. And
Mhm.
we've mentioned that skin is also related to our beauty, but our skin is also kind of how we present ourselves to the world. But it is also where we make vitamin D, right? Don't want to leave that, some of these functions out. Did talk about protection, and we did mention regulation of body temperature.
Yeah,
Um, so I thought maybe go into that a little bit deeper. I think that's an important concept in then making
that
vitamin D too. So
thermoregulation. Yeah. Okay, and we also should point out that kerat, keratocytes.
it's hard to
I know.
say.
Yeah, that's spelled not in a way that has anything to do with keratin, vitamin A, which is good for your skin. So keratin is like the hard substance in the skin, and you build up. I have a little bit of trouble with, especially the right hand. A little, not right now, but I had it earlier. That's because I took the only remedy I know of for that. So keratin is that skin gets harder and kind of builds up. Some of those layers don't release, and and also they could crack, and then you could get some pain and bleeding and stuff. But so the it's over hardening is keratinosis. And long ago I found because I had it, I remember yeah, back in the 90s, maybe the 90s, we had a great guy who would come. I wonder if he's still with us. He doesn't go to conferences so much anymore. But Alan Datner, who was a dermatologist in like Fairfield County, Connecticut, a great place to be a dermatologist right next to New York City, rich suburb. But so he was always wanting to learn about the skin from because there's so few things a dermatologist can do really, like about six things,
Mhm.
six drugs or remedies or procedures. And there are many herbs. We didn't know that much then, but so I showed Alan my that hardening of the skin there. I was pretty young then, maybe late 30s, and he said, "Oh, it looks like keratinosis." Just and my sister gets it too. But I found that sweet leaf, or which is what my Indian mentor Tismal called it, that would be wild bergamot or Monarda fistulosa, which is such a great remedy for so many different things. That is a very good remedy for. It's always helped me. I haven't helped a whole lot of people. People don't come to me, oh, I have keratinosis. My sister, yeah, but that's about it in the last 20 years. But at any rate, so it worked for me, and it's worth trying. It's a very oily plant, a lot of essential oils, and it may help. And it penetrates very well. It opens pores and lets the heat and the cold kind of mix to the right level, you might say, in the skin. So just observing from how it works. So yeah, okay. Anything else that we need to mention from that? That
Well, vitamin D, we all know that if we're in the sunshine
yeah,
and conditions are right, we can make vitamin D in the skin. And so
yeah.
actually in the skin, we make the precursor D2, and from there it's taken to the liver and converted and then to the kidneys and converted again into tricalcidol, and then it's released, and now we got D3. But D2 in the skin, the keratin keratinocytes, it's so hard to say, actually do some conversion themselves to
Oh,
D3 to protect the skin. So vitamin D3, it made in the skin, converted in the skin, helps protect the skin from UV rays.
oh,
So So I found that interesting too. And so without the D3, we don't uptake calcium well, right? We need that to uptake our calcium, but our skin uses some calcium. The keratinocytes use the D3 to uptake calcium to make them harder and stronger to protect our skin from the UV rays. So
Hmm.
that's just kind of fascinating. We make our own kind of like body armor to a certain extent. Okay.
Well, Pierce says vitamin D is actually a hormone.
Hormone. Yeah. Yes. In my current handout, I have mentioned that it is now classified as a hormone because there are so many receptors and it actually turns on processes and turns off processes. So, yeah,
Hmm.
now a hormone.
Yeah, also an interesting thing I read, you'd think, yeah, you're lying out in the sun. That's a great thing. Of course, you don't want to burn yourself and get skin
Right.
cancer or something. But for 20 minutes after you've been in the sun, you have to like not jump in the water or shower because you wash off a lot of vitamin D that you've made. It's right on the surface and it takes a while to be absorbed. So,
Good point.
yeah.
And
So,
we have to have that oil you mentioned earlier. You mentioned like when people go out in the sun, you mentioned the Native Americans, but you get that little oily sheen that begins. Whether you
mm,
notice it or not, it's there. That
mm,
oil is needed to make the vitamin D.
mm.
So we need a certain amount of oil in our skin. If our skin is too dry, even if we're in the sun and our skin is really dry, we are not making good amounts of vitamin D.
Yeah, and burdock, as we'll get to it, is just a great remedy for getting the oil of the skin in good shape. And it's funny, it looks like it'd be a bone remedy from the way the the roots look like bones and then they kind of rot out from the middle. So maybe it actually, in the days when people didn't supplement with vitamin D, may have been kind of a bone remedy by helping their body produce more vitamin D or assimilate it or have a healthier surface. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, we have 5 questions. Are we ready? Have we kind of gone through anatomy, physiology, function pretty well? I mean,
Do you want to talk any more on thermoregulation?
yeah, but that's like half an hour there.